no.
Oh, okay.
Are we good? Okay, great.
All good?
Cool. Okay, so we really don't want this to be like an overly formal thing because we've spent the last
6 weeks
6 weeks doing formal presentations, which some of you have already seen. And also, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first Doya event in like a couple months that is actually in person, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So we are honored to be here
Yes,
for
guys.
that. Thank you all for coming out. So we're not going to put more screens in front of you. We usually have a slideshow. So it'll just be us, and we'll tell you a little bit about us, how we got to becoming missionaries. And then it would be great if we could just have like a discussion. You could ask us any questions you want, and we can get into various topics, okay?
Yeah, and since this is going to be more informal, feel free to stop us and ask questions during our presentation. That's fine as well, or you can wait till the end. So like we said, we're both, well, I'm from here. I'm from San Diego. I'm a native. But we got married here in 2014, right here in St. Anthony's, which is awesome. And we lived here for a couple years before moving to Greece. Joseph is from Northern California, though, and is originally from an OCA parish.
Right. So I'm actually from, I wasn't born Orthodox, I'm sorry. I'm a convert. I converted from, how do I put this? I was baptized as a Catholic as a baby, and then I grew up as a Protestant, and I was really active in church with my whole family up until about college, end of high school, beginning of college, when I started questioning things, and I basically considered myself an agnostic. My junior year of college, I was coming out of a frat party, and the fraternity facing the one I was coming out of was a group of guys there having a discussion about theology. And if you know anything about frats, that's not something that's usual, right? And so it pricked my ear. I made my way into the circle, and they were talking about the differences between Catholicism and Orthodoxy, right? To me, I'm a big history buff. I'd always thought that the Orthodox Church had sort of gone away or had been absorbed into the Catholic Church at the Great Schism, but I was wrong, right? So to cut it short, I started asking questions to the guy who was sort of leading this discussion, and 2 years later, I was Orthodox.
And my story is kind of the opposite. I grew up with no religion, non-religious completely. And I became a Protestant in college. So where he lost his faith, I kind of found one. And that lasted, the Protestantism lasted for a while, but it started to become, okay, we go to church, it's me and my Bible, and that's it. And a rock band, and that's kind of it. No real theological depth coming from that particular non-denomination that I was involved in. And at kind of a frat party, but not a frat party, a party with mutual friends of ours, I met Joseph, and we kind of just struck up a conversation, and he had told me, I don't think he told me outright that he was Orthodox, but he did tell me that he absolutely hated San Diego and couldn't wait to leave. He was going to move abroad and get a job teaching English in hopefully an Orthodox country, and hopefully get an arranged marriage and live happily ever after in somewhere like Romania. And I thought, okay, bye crazy. Nice to meet you. And I didn't think I'd see him again after that meeting. But we kind of kept running into each other because we had mutual friends. And I was like, oh, hey, you haven't moved to Romania yet. And then those conversations kind of turned into us deciding to meet one-on-one instead of with our mutual friends. And it was kind of during those meetings where I asked him, okay, what do you believe? Because he would tell me he's Orthodox, and I'm like, what's that? I've never heard of that. And instead of kind of trying to lay down all these kind of theological points on me, he kind of just recited the Nicene Creed, and he said, if you want to learn more, I suggest that you just come and see. And I was like, all right, cool. And he took me to a Vesper service at St. Anthony's, which was at the time borrowing from a Protestant church in La Jolla. So the surroundings were really familiar to me. It looked just like a church I had been to before, but the spirit, the atmosphere was completely different. And I felt at peace. I remember feeling at peace. I know that a common reaction to converts when they first go into an Orthodox church is, this is weird. I kind of want nothing to do with this. Yeah. But Joseph, I think, was really smart in bringing me to a Vespers first instead of just throwing me right into a liturgy. And after that, I decided to stay. So, and then I became Orthodox about a year after that encounter.
So she stayed and I left. Not Orthodoxy, but San Diego. So that original conversation we had where I was like, yeah, I want to go to, an Orthodox country, I want to teach English. Some of that came true. We started dating and then I left like a month later. So as she said, I had all these plans. Why did I have those plans? How do you go from being, an agnostic that wants nothing to do with church to wanting to move to Romania and get an arranged marriage? Well, this is how it happens. Right after I was baptized up north. I went to school at UC Davis. Became Orthodox at you too. Great. Became Orthodox at a church in Sacramento, and man, all of college I was like saving up for like a massive tattoo, right? And like I actually contacted the tattoo artist up in Reading, and I was like getting ready for this. But I also became Orthodox around the same time, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time, but I really wanted to see Mount Athos. So it was one or the other, right? Get the tattoo or go see Mount Athos. And at the time I was like, you know what? I really want to go to Mount Athos. So I went. I spent a month in Greece. Large portion of that time was just traveling around to different holy spots. And I fell in love with the culture, with the deeper into the faith. And by the time I got back to California, all I wanted to do was go back to Greece, go back to an Orthodox country. So this is why I told her, I just want to get out of here. Mm-hmm. And this is why I started applying to teach abroad and, to teach English. Now, I didn't get a job in any Orthodox country. I did get a job in the Czech Republic, which I had thought was the land which Cyril and Methodius had missionized, and I assumed there'd still be Orthodox there. Boy, was I wrong. And so this is where we're getting into the mission part. I get there, and I see all of these beautiful churches, this people with this deep history, this rich history that used to be Christian, and is still, to an extent, deeply Christian, although they don't know it. For example, they have names days. They all celebrate name days, but most of the people are atheist. And all those churches are museums, right? So I taught there for a year, wanted to stay longer, but I also wanted to marry her. So I came back, and there was this, yearning in my heart. It was like, those Orthodox countries like, Greece, Romania, there's already, 90%, 95% Orthodox there. But there's this, there are these people who knew Christ, but gave him up, right? And there was, that voice in my heart that kept, saying like, you need to refill those churches. You need to refill those churches. So that was like, I would say, the first sort of calling to mission. So I came back, I proposed, actually brought her to Europe so I could propose. Not that we're rich, but we did a teaching gig in France for a summer, and that was just enough to pay for our tickets. And I showed her the Czech Republic, I showed her those empty churches.
Which are in France too.
Which are also in France, yeah. Okay, this is all of Western Europe. And, to kind of plant a little seed, right? And, once, we were on the track to getting married, we started talking more seriously about mission. And Father John Ryman started giving us books on missions and these great American missionaries who, went out and gave their lives for the Orthodox Church. One of these books was on this missionary family in Albania, and if you listen to Father John's prayers, he prays for the Hoppe family. And so that's, we started thinking about missions more seriously there, what it was like. And by chance, we met these Orthodox missionaries, a young Orthodox missionary couple, through a Skype meeting It was right? So like here we are in COVID world. This is like, back in 2013,
Yeah.
right? And so that wasn't very common, but we met them there, and when we told them we were planning, on going to Greece, because I wanted to show her Greece too, for our honeymoon, they're like, Albania is right next door. Why don't you come visit us? So we hopped on a bus, went all night. It was a midnight sort of trip, and 4 o'clock in the morning, we arrive in Tirana, and we're like looking around. It's like we didn't sleep at all. For someone in a cassock, right? So Albania is a mostly, Muslim country. Also lots of atheists. But we knew that if someone's in a cassock, he's probably Orthodox. He's probably our missionary friend. We went there, spent 2-3 days with them, and after that experience, we're like, you know what? I think we could do this. I think this is something that we could dedicate our, at least a few years of our lives to. And so that leads us to Greece, right? Why Greece? Well, I wanted to get a theological education, and Greece is right next to Albania. Greece is also home to Mount Athos. So we went there so we could make more frequent trips to Albania, learn from the missionaries there, and we actually had in mind perhaps this is where God is leading us at first.
Because at the time Albania was the European mission field, and there was no Sweden mission field at the time, and we thought, okay, well, since we have a heart for Europe and these nations that used to be Christian, and Albania's especially been under a lot of persecution in their history, we thought, okay, this is how we kind of fulfill that. This is our way in. This is probably where we're supposed to be.
So we did that. We went there on personal trips. We went there on three short-term mission trips in the last 4 years, and it was wonderful. We became very close with the missionaries there. With the local people. We heard their stories, how they became Orthodox, what draws them to the church. We learned a lot about how the communist government tried to destroy all of religion. It was the only communist country where religion was absolutely forbidden, right? And so this was a people recovering from that, where they had their church taken away. But at the end of it, we're like, okay, this mission field is really well developed, right? They've been doing this for 25 years now. Where do we fit into this? And so we had a discussion with one of the bishops there, and he's like, if you come, we'll find a place for you, right? We'll find a place for you. And we're like, yeah, well, like, we love you guys, we want to be missionaries, but like, we want to be somewhere where they actually need us and our skills. And so we started, speaking with our trainers at OCMC, and they're like, keep praying about it. We think you guys will be good missionaries, and we're sure God will open up your eyes to something. Well, in the time that we were praying, we went onto the OCMC website, and we were kind of scrolling around, and then Sweden opened up, right? We're like, Sweden, no, that's interesting. And so we started reading the description of the missionary field and the specific jobs that they wanted, right? And the jobs that they wanted fit us perfectly. So now we get into what we're going to be doing in Sweden. So I'll be there as a pastoral assistant, and as a youth and college ministries director. Okay, and this is really important for me because we had all this great experience with you guys in Stoya. And also my own personal experience becoming Orthodox in college, where my life could have been, gone, completely the other way. Because an Orthodox Christian found me at the opportune time, I'm here standing in front of you. I'm still a Christian. I'm an Orthodox Christian. So I think this is a really important thing, in a young man's life. And my wife?
And I will be joining the Internet Ministries team. And while we, I think, now have a better idea of what internet ministry is, just because we've had to stay home and rely on live stream services, on Zoom meetings, and on keeping connected through Facebook, keeping connected through the internet. That's something we know of now, but that's something that they asked for specifically last year when the mission field opened up, because there in Sweden, in a more well-developed country, everybody is very much connected via the internet, and what I'm going to be doing there is kind of helping the metropolis build an online presence that will keep everybody, but especially the youth, connected to the metropolis, to the events that they're doing, and to each other, kind of like what we're doing right here. They have something similar to Sedoya. It's not as large, but it's great that they have that. And the Metropolitan is very, very invested in the youth. Luckily, he has the right idea. So that's mainly what my job will be. I will be the main creative force behind websites, behind all social media platforms, behind any online resources that the Metropolis needs, that wants to offer their parishioners.
So why does Sweden need missionaries? Are they a Christian country? Right? So, I spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe, in places like Albania and Ukraine and the Czech Republic, where the communist governments took away their religion, right? And some of those places are experiencing a rebirth in Christianity, in Orthodox Christianity, once they had the freedom to worship, right? Western Europe is a bit of a different story. These people chose to leave the church willingly. With all the freedoms they had, that's what they chose to do. Now, Sweden used to be Christian, right? They used to be Orthodox. That's something a lot of people don't know. At the same time, when we were sending Orthodox missionaries to the Slavic lands, we were sending Orthodox missionaries into the Scandinavian countries as well. Okay? So at the same time, Russia was Christianized, so was Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, right? But what happened was, a couple hundred years later, the Great Schism happened, and because all their bishops belonged to Rome, they had to side with Rome, and the common people couldn't do anything about it. 500 years later, the Protestant Reformation happens. All their kings decide, well, I think it will pay off to be Lutheran. And they become Lutheran, and again, common people have no choice but to go along. It's a long trek to Constantinople, right? And by that time, it was already under Turkish rule. So fast forward to the 20th century. Now we have a government and church that are one, right? They don't have separation. They didn't have separation of church and state there. So as Europe secularized, so did the Scandinavian nations, and they were like the spearhead, right? And so the more and more the government secularized, the church just had to do the same thing. So if the government passed a law, for example, that goes against Christian teaching, the church has to bless it, they have to perform the sacraments, all of that. Now in the year 2000, the Swedish church and state finally separated, right? And I guess people had more of a freedom to do what they wanted, to worship how they wanted. And of course, like I said, they left. If you look at the statistics was it 1970?
1972.
There we go.
Yes.
This is your part of it.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
So 30 years before the church and state formally separated, 95% of Swedes were members of the Swedish Lutheran Church. And only half a century later, it has declined 40%, so that means that today only 56% of Swedes are members of the Lutheran Church. But there are 73% of Swedes who say that they are non-religious or convinced atheists. So there's a strange overlap of people who are still members of the church but don't believe in God, profess that they have no religion or that religion is not important. And I actually learned recently that half of Swedes actually view religion in a negative light. So they want nothing to do with religion at all, or at least the religion that they're used to.
I think we've all heard of spiritual but not religious, right?
Not even that in Sweden, just nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people who are serious Christians, people who are actually, spiritual and, want depth, they feel that the state church has abandoned them, right? They feel like, it'll just change with whatever the government decides, and that, they don't have any firm grounding there. So this is another reason why they leave. Now there are two mission fields we're going to be serving there, really. the native Scandinavian population, whom we've talked about, who are leaving the church in droves. But I believe that everyone is actually seeking for truth, seeking for depth in their lives, for meaning in their lives, and for healing. So it's not that they don't want Christianity. They just don't want the Christianity that they were presented, right? The second mission field there is the Orthodox Christians who are already there. And most of these people represent immigration from the last 50 years. So there's 52,000 Orthodox Christians in the metropolis we're going to be serving, which is the Greek Orthodox metropolis of Sweden and all Scandinavia. And what that means is Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Iceland, because Finland already has their own autonomous church, right? They have their own archbishop. We won't be serving there. So there's 52,000 Christians, right? Now there are 14 priests. 14 priests.
In those 4 countries, okay. Yes.
So that's like 3,700 parishioners per priest. Now, if you come from a parish where you feel, I mean, your dad is, does he ever come home feeling a little bit overworked, tired?
Just a little bit.
Have lunch today. Doing confession.
And how many parishioners do we have here? 400. Now imagine adding another 3,300 to that. Right? So they're in serious need of priests. They're in serious need of staff, and that's another reason that we're going there to serve.
Yeah, and that was really great.
Okay,
what
great.
You just said. No, because we said we were going to talk about ourselves, and that we're going to talk about Sweden a little bit and why we are going there and why they need missionaries, and you just killed that. You did that.
Okay.
So
all right,
I'm happy
great.
with that.
Talked a little bit longer than I wanted to, but I'd really love to open it up for discussion. Any questions that you guys might have. It doesn't even have to be about missions. It could be about anything. Sure.
So, first of all, good job.
Thank you.
You talked about how Hello. Thank you. You talked about how when the laws changed, the people kind of went along with
Right.
whatever happened. So my question to you is, have you or any other missionaries in the field considered specifically targeting the government and government officials to convert them so that they convert the masses and trickle down?
Well, I'll just, my voice carries, so I'll just, no, it's fine, go ahead. Okay.
Nice middle ground, yeah.
Well, that's a great thing you bring that up. I think that the conversion of the Roman Empire is a really great example of how, as the church grows, and as people of power and prominence, become Christians, or Christians become people of power and prominence, they can have a profound impact on the spiritual life of the entire nation, right? Now, in the past, this usually happened through kings, right? When a king converted, there's a good chance that the rest of the people would convert very quickly. It's a little bit more difficult in today's democratic West. But of course, I believe that, God works through us, right? To separate, the politics from the church completely, that's falling into, the sin of, secularization, right? We must live all of our life, the private, the public, at church, outside of church, in a Christian manner. And if we do that, we can influence politics, we can influence legislation, and make the world, a better place for everyone to be, and to make it easier for them to follow Christ. Right? Justin?
Yes.
Okay. Justin?
Yes.
Okay.
So you said earlier that you translated some works from Greek to English. Can you give any examples of what you work on?
Okay.
He's asking what type of works Joseph translates from Greek to English.
Okay. lately, okay, so I started, the job that I'm doing now is working for a female monastery. It's actually just two of them right now, Yorandisa and her novice. But they're trying to establish in a physical place and grow the sisterhood. And so part of what they're doing is they're trying to have some sort of stable income. And so I translate their books that they sell. So I started translating the collected works of Saint Nectarios of Egina, which until now haven't been, parts of it have been published by different publishing houses, but to do the whole thing is a new endeavor. And we also just finished the Philokalia. You guys know what the Philokalia is? Yeah. The Philokalia, Volume 5. So volumes 1 through 4 were published, the famous ones out of England, Metropolitan Callistos Ware. This isn't going to be online, is it? Okay, that's fine. Anyway, we don't want to step on their toes because they've done monumental work. And because of those books, so many people have become Orthodox. We're not worthy of them. But being as 2 out of the 3 of that translation team have already died of old age, Metropolitan Callistos isn't getting any younger. We thought it might be a good idea to have those translated now in case his great, pristine translation isn't published in his lifetime.
And what did you do before that?
What?
You also translated for Mount Athos.
I've also translated things for Mount Athos, but that's neither here nor there.
No big deal.
No big deal, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Sure. So remind me again of your name?
Taylor.
Taylor.
How'd you learn Greek?
So Taylor asked how we learned Greek. It's for the camera.
Yeah.
Okay. With blood, sweat, and tears.
Okay.
No, so when we knew that we were going to go to Greece for theological school, we knew that you have to pass an exam to get into the university, right? And so before we left, we started attending we did private lessons here with a very wonderful Greek grandmother who taught us once a week for like an hour and a half. And then when we arrived in Greece, we were like, wow, we don't know anything.
No, stop. We could read, so we knew the alphabet. We could read signs. Not that we knew what the words meant, but we could read. We could say our names, where we were from, and kind of very basic information. Like, probably couldn't even order a coffee if we wanted to, unless it was a frappe. Like, that's probably all we could do when we got there. And then once you get to Greece, usually if you want to study in Greece, it is required that you know Greek because all of the classes are in Greek. So in order to pass a proficiency exam, you need to usually take a year of classes, and these are in-person classes, at least they were before COVID. You can choose part-time or full-time. What we did was full-time, so that's 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. And it also helped, it was, invaluable being in Thessaloniki where we are, and not Athens, I would say. Because in Thessaloniki, the common Greek person does not speak English. Not even people our age speak English.
Not very well.
And if they do, they can maybe hold out a couple, for a couple minutes. They can say very basic things. Sometimes it's understandable, sometimes it's not. Until they kind of just need to switch to Greek, or the conversation ends, So being in that kind of environment where you're like, okay, if I really want to make this place feel like home, if this is the place I'm going to be for a long time, and I want to make friends, and I want to really immerse myself into church and spiritual life, if I want to speak to a priest, my spiritual father, someone to become my spiritual father, I should learn Greek. So that really was, I think, essential for us in learning Greek. So we learned in the classroom and just as much as we learned outside of the classroom, I would say. Joe took 1 year. I decided to take 2 just because when he was starting his master's, I wasn't really starting anything school related, and I needed a reason to stay in the country. So I was like, I'll do another year of Greek, and it ended up being really awesome, an awesome experience. I wouldn't do it any other way, I would say. Yeah.
I seem to recall at one point you were saying that you now
He said that,
I
not
said
me.
that, yeah. No, so she had to prove she wasn't Greek to get into the university.
Don't
And
ask
as
why.
she was
It's a real thing, though.
Yeah, and so like as she was explaining, like, you know, we don't have that paper, you know, that doesn't exist in America. She was like trying to explain the situation. The lady was like, well, the way you speak Greek, how do I, like, I don't believe that you're not Greek. Like,
She's like, how do I know that you're not Greek? I was like, do you see my face? Do I look Greek to you?
Brandon,
So what are some of the logistics of going there? Like, how much stuff are you bringing?
Whew.
to Sweden.
How long will you be there?
Okay, so,
Oh, I thought he meant Greece.
no. So
This is a way easier question.
yeah, no, so the standard term of deployment is 2 years for OCMC. I think they might be changing that so it's like shorter, but like standard for, you know, at least until for now is 2 years. So where we're going to be living, that's another hurdle that we have to figure out. Yeah, so the metropolitan there, he's going to have like apartments for us, but they're still in construction, probably until they're like renovating them, right? And they won't be ready probably until the beginning of next year. But we need to deploy by the beginning of November, otherwise our Greek visas, our Greek residency permits run out, and they'll have to come back here for 3 months. So that's a little bit of a juggling we have to do, is figure out if we can find a place to live for a few months until his residences are ready for us. Then we'll be good to go, God willing.
Now, how long will we be in Sweden? With OCMC, I think for every mission field, it's standard that each deployment is 2 years long. And then you come back to the United States for about a 3-month furlough, and in that time you take at least a month of vacation, I would say, but then the other 2 months, at least, I hope, but then the other 2 months are focused on just more fundraising for the next 2 years. So every 2 years you come back and you raise money for the 2-year mission.
Yeah.
However, it is up to you how long you want to stay, how many 2-year terms we want to stay. Right now, because we're not there yet, we don't know what the future holds, but we have the full intentions of staying there 10 years plus. I would say.
Yeah.
But you could always decide longer and make that your life's work. Decide to raise kids there. Anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So there are missionaries who have stayed in the mission field 20 plus years now. A lot of missionaries also, they'll do like 10 years or something, and they'll come back and they'll work in a parish here in the States, or they'll work at OCMC at the center, which is
in Florida.
In Florida, they'll become professors, different things like that. What the Metropolitan told me is, he said, I want to ordain you, and if I ordain you, then I don't want you running off to some other bishop afterwards. You're going to stay here with me for quite some time.
Or rather, he said, if you're going to come and run off after 2 years, like, that's not cool. I don't want you.
Yeah. So it is a bit of a commitment.
How was your week? What do you do?
Oh, so we're pre-field missionaries for now, right? So we've been to Sweden on a short-term mission trip. What it's going to look like for me is I'm going to be at the cathedral at all of the services, helping in the services, kind of like you guys do as subdeacons. And then after the services, I'll be in the offices, helping the bishop with his hundreds and thousands of emails, probably, and all of that. Like I said, 52,000 parishioners, right? But 14 people doing all the work, right? So he needs the help. It's a mountain.
And when he's not at the cathedral, whenever the bishop travels, he would travel with him if it's within the diocese. So
Yeah.
Our bishop is of Greek descent and of Greek origin. So if he needs to go to Greece, Joseph wouldn't have to come. But anytime he does a visit to the parishes in the in the entire diocese, he would come with him. And with me being a graphic designer, I of course can work from wherever. But there are offices in the cathedral, which I think is great, because so I'm not just mixing up my work and home life and getting it confused, kind of like we do now. Kind of like we do now. But that'll be nice. And if in the future God blesses us with children, I'll still be able to do the job from our home.
During the maternity leave. Yeah. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Sure.
So here in America, I think we're used to seeing our bishops maybe once a year, right? That's because they have.
Maybe.
So in the diaspora, this is fairly common, where they have enormous dioceses with dozens of parishes to go to, and you have to see your bishop at some point. So they do a lot of traveling, and our bishop is no exception to that. Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Iceland, and technically Greenland, but we haven't put a parish down there yet. So that's a lot of flying around, a lot of people to visit, and so I'll have to go with him on those journeys. Yeah.
We encourage anybody to come and visit us when we're established, because had we not been offered that from missionaries in Albania, I don't know if we would have went full force on moving forward with it when we did.
That's another thing. I'd really want to encourage you guys to consider, even if you don't think you'll ever be a missionary or whatever, they need your help, right? Even if, like, I know a guy who's like a doctor, right? And he was able to serve on short-term mission teams and really help out the people there with his skill, his God-given skills. They need engineers, things like that, and that doesn't require you to sell all your stuff and like leave for years. You can do it on short-term missions trips. And so one of the things we'll be doing is once we're there and once we're established, we'll be helping to organize those short-term trips for you guys here to
Come and
visit
see
us
yeah.
on an official basis. So.
And I can vouch for. I stayed with Joseph and Emerson in Greece.
Yeah, you
like
did.
A year ago, and it was awesome. And so if you guys seriously take them up on it, you'll have a great time. I'm just like
Yeah.
anything else, they're very hospitable.
Yes.
Everyone knows.
Right, now everyone knows, yeah. So actually, we will, I don't know what will happen with COVID, but we'll be in Greece up until, like I said, the beginning of November. So if you're passing through, get our information and hit us up. We'd love to, host you or show you around the city. We've really grown to love it there. It's become like a home to us.
You may have done this, but just like this, if you do want to like donate or help you out,
So we ended that last part of talking ended awkwardly, because that's usually when we go into the spiel for asking for money, which you will hear in full. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, that's awesome. Yes. So, so that was the right question. Yes. So if you are interested in helping us out, we are going to hand out, first and foremost, these prayer cards. I don't know if you're familiar with any other OCMC missionaries, but we all have one. And at the front is a prayer. It has our names in it, and it's just a prayer for missions, a prayer for us. And we put ours, personally, wherever we have like our icon corner, but you can put it on your refrigerator. And speaking of refrigerator, we also made refrigerator magnets. So they don't get lost in your wallet. You could just stick it on your refrigerator and you'll see us there and you can pray for us. And on both of those pieces, it has information to sign up for our newsletter. And via our newsletter, you guys will be able to keep up with us and know specifically how you can pray for us. And maybe there's a short-term missions trip coming up. Maybe the Church of Sweden opens a new position and you're like, wow, I would be great for that. And I'd like to learn more. What?
Oh, there you go, yeah.
Like, I can probably go. I should. Like, I could probably go. I should hit up the Candelarios and ask them. It has our email address, which we both look at. We'll always be answering there. But if you are financially inclined, if COVID did not make you lose your job and you would like to donate, I'm so sorry, Ben. That was not for you. No, that means like, Ben, you're exempt from donations. Like, we won't side-eye you if you don't donate, is what that means.
Ben's prayers at this time are like extra grace-filled.
Anyways, if you would like to donate, here on the, I think on the prayer guide it has it, but here on the business card, it says learn more. And at ocmc.org/the Candelario family, it will have links to be able to donate to us. The OCMC just redesigned their entire website, I think, which makes it more user-friendly and way more easy to find exactly where to donate. And us specifically, we always accept one-time donations, but if you are so inclined, you might consider just a smaller amount in a monthly donation, just because it gives us more stability in the mission field. In that way, month to month, we are not kind of stressing about where our funding is coming from. We know we have a good monthly base, and we can continue our work and put our full force kind of into our work rather than kind of worrying about fundraising. So maybe you were thinking, oh, I'll give them $100. But if you gave us $10 a month, that would be also, that would be even better, I would say.
Not because it ends up being more over the year,
Yeah.
but but because because it I think it does, bond, the missionaries and the supporters together better, and then you also, you feel more invested in the mission field.
And also, maybe you don't have $100 just to give, but maybe you can give just $10 a month slowly, and that's more doable for you. Whatever is doable for you, we encourage you to do. And that's praying and donating or not donating, honestly.
But praying.
But praying, you've no excuse. You need to pray.
Yeah.
Are you guys like super stoked to go? This is a great part of the world. Are you in Sweden, Norway?
Yeah. We're excited to go, but even more excited that we're going, and the jobs that are waiting for us are our specific gifts that we feel God has blessed us with. I have to say, had I gone to Albania and been placed like somewhere teaching English, I would have been miserable. Even though the love we have for Albania is deep and we want to help them, we are going to stay connected to them as much as we can. It's different knowing that we're going to a mission field that needs us specifically, for the specific gifts that you have. And yes, that part of the world is cool, but we've only been once, so.
And more so like that they need orthodoxy. Look,
Yes.
who here's a convert? Right? And even if you're not a convert, I think, that's a bad question. Because everyone's a convert. And this is what I mean. Like at some point in your life, even if you were born and baptized, the minute after you got out of you were born into a baptismal font, right?
The womb.
At some point in your life, right? At some point in your life, you make the decision to continue going to church, to go to confession, to go to repentance, and to go before the holy altar to receive the body and blood of Christ. And that's conversion, right? It's continual conversion that we're all called to. So it was a bad question, but so here's what I mean about that. If you're like me, if you grew up outside of the faith, and if you spent some time without religion at all, you know what it's like to thirst, to really thirst for the truth, and when you found it, it's like having found paradise, and you just want to drink up as much of it as you can. That's what Greece was like for me when I went there the first time, and it's what it's been like for me these past 4 years. Daily services, multiple times a day, like the whole cycle of services, all the major feasts, and they're full of people, and the electrician comes and all of a sudden he gives you a Byzantine chant lesson. You talk
True story.
about theology and the different miracles that Saint Paisius did for, with the cab driver. It's like that. So we're leaving that, to go to the desert.
The spiritual desert.
And it's gonna break my heart. It really will.
Yes.
Because I've been nourished there. I've been fed and I've grown. But I know that I can't just keep that flame to me, right? It needs to go out there in the darkness. And believe me, in November when we move there, it's going to be dark.
Literally
yeah.
very dark.
There will be, a few hours where it seems like dusk for a few hours and then darkness and cold. So, literally and, symbolically, we're going there to bring light, to God's people in the north. So, yeah.
I have a question. So for someone considering a short-term missions trip, like what are some things that maybe they should keep in mind, whether they're just trying to weigh if they want to go or they know that they want to go, what are some things that they should be thinking about or planning for that maybe they wouldn't know or think to come.
So the question was for someone who's interested in doing a short-term mission trip, what are some things that they should sort of weigh out in their head before they choose to go? Is that a good summary?
Yes, or also, like, I don't know, sometimes you get somewhere, a foreign country, and you realize, oh, I should have prepared for this, or
Oh.
besides language barriers and stuff like that.
Do you want to start with this?
Practical or big picture things.
No, I think that I feel like you had a thought and you were gonna say it.
Go for it.
Whatever you prepare, and you can prepare, with contingency plan after contingency plan. Once you get there, God will throw something in to, a wrench into your plans. And so the best preparation you can do is to have a heart that's open to whatever God puts in your way, and if you do that right, you won't leave there the same person as you did when you arrived. God will, throw something in there that'll, shake things up in you in a positive way because he wants you to grow, right? And he'll also teach you, there'll be times when you're like, wow, I'm not prepared for this at all, right? Like, I don't know, like imagine being like, say you go on a teaching trip, right? On a teaching short-term missions trip, and you're there in a classroom full of 20 kids screaming in a language you don't know, and then like, your translator just left for some reason, and you have to manage that, and you have to show the love of Christ, and you have to show some sort of patience at the same time. Those things will happen, and you'll learn from it. And God, and it'll teach you to rely on God and to trust Him in whatever He puts in your path.
But maybe something more practical that you can do today, like something maybe you want to do something today. The only thing I can really think of right now is to go to ocmc.org and really just read through the different mission fields and kind of think, okay, I could see myself here. And when they do release short-term mission trips, when they start up again, I don't think there will be any this year, unfortunately, but when they do start again, hopefully next year,
The dates are up for 2021.
They are.
Yeah, we're hopeful.
Thank you. The dates are up for 2021, and the descriptions should also have descriptions of not only the country you're going to and the climate, but specifically what they need people to do. So you don't go and you're just wondering what you're going to do. You're going to go and you should already know and be prepared on what you're going to do. And if I'm not mistaken, even for short-term mission trips, OCMC does do a training. Because we met them.
Yeah.
We met a team that was going to Albania, I think. A team that was going to Albania for a short-term mission trips. We happened to be at OCMC at the same time, and we were leaving the next day to start our life in Greece. And they were there, and it was a chance for them to all meet together. They all leave they all go to the airport together. They have some time to bond before the mission trip starts, and that's not practical for everybody to go to Florida, meet up with them, and then travel all together, but it's worth it, I would say, to kind of get to know the team you're going to be on. And then there, you can also discuss with them kind of, okay, who wants to do what? Who is the one who's kind of going to, there's always going to be a leader from OCMC. OCMC will appoint a leader to go with you. And usually it's clergy, sometimes it's not. And they wanted just to make it as comfortable as possible for you. So you're not going there just blindsided wondering, what am I walking into, And then from there, once you get there, like Joe said, a wrench will be thrown, but you will be astonished with the people you meet and the people and you will be moved, I would say, and it will stay with you for a long time. At least that's how I've felt every time I've gone to Albania.
Thank you both.
All good?
Right.
We'll talk with you casually, too. You
Yeah,
don't have to keep doing this.
Thank you all again so much for coming, and it's been such an honor for us to reconnect with everyone and to meet new people as well.
Shout out to Mina. Hi, Mina. Haven't seen you in so long.
And thank you guys, Sub-Deacons, for your wonderful work with all this.
And Ben with the food.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
He has no job and he brought
Yeah.
What can I say? I gotta do something, okay?
Oh yeah. Should we do the well-facial one? Okay.
You guys do the version you know.
Christian, can you lead it? Okay.
Go to the mic.
He does not need the mic.
It's here if you want to use it.
It'll pick us up.
Okay. Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. The wealthy shall want and shall hunger, but they that seek the Lord shall not want for any good thing.
Glory to the Father, to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, both now and ever, and unto the ages of ages. Amen.
Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy, Lord have mercy.